What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, what I want to do is I want to sit down and go through 4 players that I felt like surprised me relative to their expectations heading into the 2024-2025 season. And I want to sit down and go through 4 players that I felt like disappointed me with their expectations before heading into the 2024-2025 season. These 4 players, you may have been following them throughout the year. You may have known that they were exceeding their expectations or disappointing their relative to their expectations as well. These are just my thoughts. These are the 4 players I felt like stood out to me in both categories. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with the disappointing category. And the first player I have in the disappointing category would have to be Paul George. Now, Philly in the offseason last year decided to go all in and trade the majority of their assets that they had left over for Paul George. And not only did they trade those assets, they also signed them to a 4-year, $211 million extension. And unless you've been living under a rock, you are very well aware of that Paul George has not been playing like a $211 million player this season. He went from last year being what I thought could be an all-star caliber player. He went from that to now a shell of his former self. He kind of looks a little old out there at times. He's averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. And if that was any other player and you just saw those stats, you may have thought that that might have been a productive year, but that's not what Philly thought that they were getting with this Paul George deal. They thought that they were getting another superstar. Now, he did start the year with a hyperextended knee during the preseason, so he missed the first 5 games of the year. And it felt like all season he kind of was just trying to play catch up, trying to find his form, and he never was able to get it done. He never was able to get back to looking like the Paul George that we came to be familiar with. Now, if I'm a Philly fan, I am in panic mode simply because there's not many ways that this roster can really improve. You have an aging Embiid who this team is kind of centered around, and if he's out of the lineup and you have an aging Paul George that you're paying $211 million to, I could see that contract being one of the worst contracts in the league in the coming years, that Paul George deal. And honestly, that Embiid deal too. Now, I still do think that Paul George can provide value for the Philadelphia 76ers. He's past his prime 100%. And I do think that we kind of get a little spoiled with the Tom Brady's and the LeBron James who were able to extend their prime out past their prime years. But not every player is able to do that. And I think Paul George is an example of a player who has reached his age where he's going to start slowing down. He needs to probably focus more on just spacing the floor, have more off-ball responsibilities, focus more on getting easier look. Now, Paul George, he did have to shut down the 2025 season a little early due to adductor troubles and his left knee. So hopefully he can recover, rehab in the summer, and come back next year somewhat better. But the expectations, if I was a betting man, I'm not betting on seeing a prime Paul George or even anything better than what we saw this season from Paul George as well. If I'm a Philly fan, you just gotta cross your fingers, hope and pray that the organization can make something happen with this Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain. You got pieces. You got Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain. You got Quinton Grimes, who's going to be coming up later on in this video. So you got pieces. You just got to figure out what to do with the pieces that you were given. And hopefully you can make something productive out of it. I don't know. We just have to wait and see. Now moving on to the first player I have in the surprising category. He actually ironically took the place of Paul George with the Clippers being the second or third scoring option at times. And that player is Norman Powell. Now, Norman Powell, I feel like last year was overlooked a little bit for consideration of the 6th Man of the Year award. I thought that he played really, really good basketball last year for the Clippers. Now, the media asked Norman Powell about the Paul George deal over the summer and how he felt about it, and he felt that it was addition by subtraction. You give guys more of an opportunity to show what they're capable of doing, and he was one of those players on that team that took advantage of the more opportunities that were given to him. Norman Powell slid right into that second or third scoring role and averaged an efficient 22 points a night. He's become one of the better shooters in this league. He's averaging over 42% from 3 on 7 attempts a game. And these aren't just spot up catch and shoot threes. These are him coming off of screens, him working in the pick and roll, creating his own shot. This dude is not just a lethal shooter, actually. Let's scratch that. He's one of the most lethal scorers in the league today, I feel like. And honestly, nothing has changed much from his game when he was doing this in Toronto a few years ago. The only thing that's changed is just he's gotten more opportunities to show what he can do. Now, I do know one of the players coming up on our list is a favorite for most improved player, but I do think that Norman Powell needs to be in consideration for the most improved player award this year. What he's doing this year, I did not expect him to be able to fill that role and be able to produce the way that he's producing this season for the Clippers. Now, let's go back to the disappointing side. The next player I have on the disappointing side for this video is Markin. Now, back in 22-23, Lauri Markin was traded to the Utah Jazz, and he hit the ground running. He was averaging over 25 points per game. He made an all-star appearance that year. Now, it did look like Utah just randomly just stumbled into an all-star player, somebody that was just a young player, having a hard time finding his footing in the league, got an opportunity and took advantage of it. I would say that season, if you squinted really hard, he wasn't Dirk, but you could kind of convince yourself he was a bootleg version of Dirk, sort of just a big who could space the floor, kind of could put it on the floor every once in a while. Maybe him being a little white had a little bit to do with it, I don't know. But either way, whatever you thought of him, he got rewarded this past summer with a 5-year, $238 million extension with the Utah Jazz. And after he got that money, this season, the first year he played on that contract, his numbers dipped right back down to probably what you were expecting when he first got to Utah. I think it was 40. I'm pretty sure I'm going off the dome. I think he's shooting 42% from the field, around 19 points per game. Like, that's not $238 million worthy. Like, that type of production. Now, Utah this season was awful, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I was watching a whole lot of Lauri Markin games, but the numbers going down, it is a little bit concerning. I think that if you have Lauri Markin as your third or fourth option, yeah, he can more than contribute to a championship team. He's a very, very valuable player. He even might be a little overqualified for that third or fourth option role. But if he's your best player on your team, you're not going anywhere. I think, no, you're not. Yeah, if he's your best player, you're kind of just you're wasting time. He's making money, you're paying somebody. Now, with the $238 million contract, that is a very steep price to pay for a third or fourth option. I know the Warriors were interested in him. I think a team like even Orlando, who is in need of some type of shooting, that type of organization, I feel like would be perfect for what Lauri Markin can provide for a team. Now, going back to the surprise section, I mentioned one of the players are going to be a favorite for most improved player, and that player is Tyson Daniels. He is a favorite right now. If you look on the odds, he's most likely going to win the most improved player, well-deservedly, because over the summer, he was just a throw-in player for the DeJounte Murray trade. He was just a name of one of like 6 guys in that trade. You didn't think nothing of it. The main piece around that trade was DeJounte Murray, but Tyson Daniels, he's starting to emerge as a very, very interesting prospect. He currently leads the league in steals at 3 a game. I think he easily has the best hands in the NBA. The dude gets steals all different types of ways. He'll take the ball from you on the ball. He'll jump the passing lanes. He even has a little knack of sneaking behind the post guy and getting steals that way as well. So his offensive game is starting to develop as well. He's starting to average more points. He's starting to get more comfortable, starting to do more things. He's capable of putting the ball on the floor a little bit. I don't think that he will be a secondary playmaker, but I think that he is capable of putting the ball on the floor and getting his own offense, especially if he has a lesser defender on him. And the crazy thing is, he's only 21 years old, so he has so much more room to improve as a player. And if this is the starting line and he doesn't get any better, him just being able to just create havoc on defense and cause chaos, that's more than enough value for a team to bring him in and have a 10, 15-year career just doing just that. But he still has room to improve on the offensive side of the floor as well. Who knows? In 2-3 years, this dude could be on multiple defensive teams. Probably even, it'd probably be a stretch for Defensive Player of the Year just because it's not very often that guards are able to get that Defensive Player of the Year award. But, dude, I have nothing but positive things to say about Tyson Daniels. I don't know what the New Orleans Pelicans was thinking about looking at in practice. I don't know how he didn't see the talent. They just threw him into the trade like he was nothing. And now, lo and behold, he's one of the better young players in the league, about to win a Most Improved Player award. Now, back to the disappointing side. The next player I have in the disappointing category would have to be Bam Adebayo. Now, at the time of this recording, Bam Adebayo has been hooping. If you look at the last 5 games, the stats look fantastic. Maybe it's not fair for me to put him in there because of everything that's been going on with Miami. I know there's a whole bunch of drama with Jimmy Butler, and I know that he is coming off of the summer playing in the Olympics, but when you know Bam Adebayo's at his best, you know that he's probably at least a top 5 center in the league. And those matchups that he had this year with Victor, with Cat, with Joker, with who else? Jaren Jackson. There were times where he just got simply outplayed. He was not the best center on the court. I do expect that Bam Adebayo next year will bounce back and be the top 5 center that we have known him to be the last few years. Now, moving on back to the surprise section of the video, the next player I have for the surprise section is Trey Murphy. Now, the Pelicans this year has had a nightmare of a season, and nothing has been going good for them at all. But The one bright spot that they've had this year is Trey Murphy. Now, Trey Murphy this season has upped his scoring average over 20 points per game this year while keeping the same efficiency. He's averaging actually a career high in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks this year. Every aspect of the game he got better at this year, and I have to applaud him for that. Now, he did have to shorten his year because he did have season-ending shoulder surgery, so hopefully he's able to recover from that over the summer and to come back next year and still produce at the level he was producing this season. He came into the league projecting to be a very good defensive player, but it's like his offensive game continues to just evolve more and more, and now you look at him, it makes sense that he's a 20-point per game scorer. And what's crazy is he's only 24, so his game is only going to continue to improve. He has more year. He ain't even in his prime yet. Now, the Pelicans, yeah, they were disappointing this season, but Trey Murphy, bright spot for the team. I think he has a bright future. I love his size. I love his ability to shoot the basketball. I love his ability to put the ball on the floor as well. I think he's just a very, very, very good player. Now, going back to the disappointment side of the section, this is the last disappointing player I have, and it's coming from the same team on the Miami Heat. That player is Terry Rozier. Now, Terry Rozier last year was traded midseason from Charlotte, and last year in Charlotte, he was having a really, really good season. And when Miami made that trade for Terry Rozier, I don't think they were expecting to get a guy who was going to add 20 points per game to their team. But I do think that they were thinking that they were adding a player that was going to be capable of possibly putting up 20 in any given game. But that's simply not what they've gotten from Terry Rozier since they got him. Before the trade last year, Terry Rozier for Charlotte was averaging 23 points per game with 45% from the field, 35% from three splits. Now, the rest of the season with Miami, he averaged 16 points per game on 42% from the field, 37% from three. The efficiency went down, but you were thinking like, okay, new situation. He'll come in the very next year. He'll be more comfortable, more integrated with the offense, and he'll just play better. He just give him some time, he'll get it going. However, this year with Miami, those stats have continued to go down, and now they're down to 10 points per game. He's not even shooting 40% from the field anymore. He's shooting 39% from the field, 30% from three. Now, when you made that trade, you were thinking you would get better numbers or better production from Terry Rozier. These are numbers that Kyle Lowry could have produced at a cheaper price, too. I know Miami is probably scratching their head thinking, what went wrong? Is it just the player doesn't fit with our organization? Maybe he's not meant to be in Miami. When you're 30 years old and your numbers continue to go down, very rarely do your numbers just spike back up to normal. So I don't know what to expect next year from Terry Rozier. Hopefully he's able to bounce back, but this could just be the end of the road for him. Now, let's go back to the surprise section. This is the last player we have for the surprise section in this video, and that player is going to be Quinton Grimes. So Quinton Grimes, he started the year with the Dallas Mavericks, but he ended up trading midseason to the Philadelphia 76ers. And when he got to Philly, they were dealing with a whole lot of injuries, so he was able to get more opportunities, and he was entered into the starting lineup a few games. And when he got those opportunities, he more than took advantage of those opportunities. So let's go through the numbers really quick. When he was with Dallas, he averaged around 10 points per game, and he had solid efficiency. But when he got to Philly, he kept that same solid efficiency, but he upped the scoring average from 10 points per game to over 22 points per game. Quinton Grimes, he's a really good three-point shooter, and he gets really high on his jump shot, and he has a high release points. He's also shown the flash of being able to put the ball on the floor in pick and roll scenarios and just be simply just a secondary ball handler. He's shown the potential to be able to do that as well in some games. So Philly, you got pieces. You just got to put them all together, and hopefully you can make something beautiful one day. But right now, I know Philly fans are struggling. Dallas fans, y'all in an even worse place. I don't know what y'all are doing. But that's the end of the video, man. Let me know in the comments, who are your most surprising or disappointing players in the 24-25 season? If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Helps the channel grow. If you stayed to the end, I appreciate you. I love you all. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.